And I quote, "Mosh pit-style fighting broke out at Kings Island last Sunday, causing the park to close down early for the day, and now some theme park fans on social media are calling for Cedar Fair to enact a chaperone policy, just as Kentucky Kingdom did this past Saturday after a similar incident at their own park." What's up, guys? KI Coaster Guy here, and in this video, I want to talk about this issue, what actually happened, and whether or not I think Kings Island should introduce a chaperone policy. Obviously, some of this is just going to be my opinion, so if you disagree with me, that's fine. We can talk it out in the comments in a civilized manner. You see? Now there's literally no chance anyone is going to leave me an angry comment. YouTube is so easy. So what happened? Last Sunday, May 23rd, to cap off a day that was reportedly a bit out of control to begin with some guests complaining of line jumping and other offenses, a fight broke out in the Coney Mall section of the park, right in front of Coney Barbecue. Now, as you can see in the footage here, things got way out of hand. Mason police were called to the scene, where an officer was reportedly maced, if you can believe it, and the situation deteriorated to the point the park closed early, kicking everyone out, but the disruption continued even into the parking lot. Now, a serious situation to be sure, and anyone responsible for any kind of assault must absolutely be held accountable for their actions. I've been going to this place pretty much all my life, and I have never witnessed this kind of chaos there. Here is the part that everyone is kind of missing, though. This is, in a lot of ways, actually Cedar Fair's fault. Yes, these kids did what they did, and they're responsible for their own actions, no doubt about it, but the park is supposed to be in control here. They were the ones that decided to open the park to the insane capacity levels that they did when they clearly weren't actually staffed to handle crowds of that size. Now keep in mind here, Cedar Fair went into a season where a labor shortage was a known quantity, and they still tried to hire security guards at $1 less than what Walmart pays people to write names on birthday cakes. And then we're wondering why there was a security issue at Kings Island. Now, I should note here that they have since upped their offer to $15 an hour for that position. But if the lesson we take away from this is that you need to be old enough to drive to walk around an amusement park responsibly, amongst some other really crappy things, we're allowing the adults in the room to kind of avoid taking responsibility here. The reason we've had like 3 weekends in a row of negative Cedar Fair press all comes down to the same root issue, with decisions the company has made transitioning back to a semi-normal state from an admittedly difficult year and a half. Now, this situation was bad, no question, but we can't pretend there weren't steps the park could have taken here to prevent these things from happening in the first place. From the sound of it, things were out of control at the park that day long before a fight broke out. Now, perhaps the decision not to require reservations at Kings Island was a mistake, considering they weren't adequately staffed to handle such crowds this early into the season. I've lived in the Dayton, Cincinnati region my entire life. If you're from around here, you'll know what I mean when I say the first time you get to walk around Kings Island without your parents is a rite of passage. Even if you aren't from this area, you probably know what I'm talking about. I imagine it's probably the same if you grew up around most other parks. I had one of my first puppy love dates with my wife when we went with a group of friends to Kings Island on a fall Saturday during our 8th grade year. There are countless other memories that simply just wouldn't exist for me had there been some kind of chaperone policy at Kings Island like Kentucky Kingdom has now, and like some are suggesting Kings Island should do as well. I'd like to be able to preserve that type of experience at Kings Island for the generations coming up behind me. Kentucky Kingdom's new policy states that guests age 15 and younger must be accompanied by an adult chaperone in order to enter the park. So yes, that means that 18-year-olds are now being carded to go ride roller coasters. The average 15-year-old is a sophomore in high school. Now think about that for a second. Do we really think a sophomore in high school should have to have their parents or aunt, uncle, older sibling, whatever, shut up, with them in order to spend a few hours at a park? Now, to be really clear here, and this is important because there are a lot of rumors swirling around, but as of the recording of this video, Cedar Fair has said absolutely nothing about following suit with this. If they're thinking about doing it, they've kept totally silent about it. But if the chatter online is any indication, they're probably receiving some pressure to do so. And I'm not here to judge Kentucky Kingdom. I'm sure they did what they felt they had to do, but I think it's a damn shame, and I hope it doesn't become precedent for theme parks everywhere like it did for shopping malls back in the early 2000s. At a time where teenagers are constantly criticized for being screen-addled shut-ins who don't do enough in the real world anymore, it also seems that we're allowing them to do less and less. I was watching this documentary about the basketball player Julius Erving on YouTube a few months back. Yes, this is all going to connect. Give me a minute. And in one of the scenes, they showed a clip of children sitting on top of buildings around the basketball court in Harlem where he played, just to catch a glimpse of Dr. J. It was a moving sequence that illustrated the way this man was able to inspire future generations with his once-in-a-generation talent. So naturally, there was a massive fight about it in the comment section. At issue was how kids are too soft these days because their parents are snowflakes and would never allow them to do something like sit on the edge of a 2-story building with no railing above what I imagine must be just concrete. At the time, I thought this was a really bizarre situation to be making the helicopter parenting argument. I'm not sure we're worse off now because we aren't letting kids dangle their legs freely above certain death. But what brings this to mind today is I can't help but think a lot of the people calling for Kings Island to institute a chaperone policy are the same kinds of people that are going around saying things like that. You can't have it both ways. My take is that as bad as this situation was, and as important as it is that steps are taken to ensure it doesn't happen again, I think a chaperone policy at Kings Island would be overkill, and in some ways, the end of an era. Kids around the age of 15 are supposed to be branching out a little bit, doing things with their peers. You're talking about someone who's 3 years away from heading off to college. It's my sincere hope that Cedar Fair will find another way.